What is it? 9 lines from the bottom. The line begins with the word Shalom. On Tezayin. So we started saying that despite the fact that we have described the system, so to speak, that after every Rotzu there will be a Shuv, and after every Shuv there will be a Rotzu, and we identified the means by which there will be a Rotzu after the extreme Shuv and so forth. However, this process of Rotzu followed by Shuv and Shuv followed by Rotzu is not not imperative. There's nothing that demands it. It happens to occur, and it's possible for it not to occur. We pointed out that the Emerson in the real Rotzu, in the Rotzu Pnimi, when it is a Rotzu to Atzmus Ha'er, then the Shuv is altogether something that is an error. Now, because of the beetle, so he senses what the real Kavanah is, but the Rotzu itself negates the whole thing. So Rotzu and Shuv are essentially opposites. And the Rebbe explained that even in the simpler and lower level of Rotzu, of when there's Ahava Mitzad Hakiruv, even there it is conceivable, it's possible to remain in the Ahava without the Shuv. Even though then the Ahava is Bikatnus, as we discussed yesterday, but nevertheless it is still not a demanding element. How is it that we say that the Rotzu must follow a Shuv and the Shuv must follow a Rotzu? That there is something that actually brings about this continuous process. Achayis Rotzu v'Shuv. This is how the Chayis comes. And then he said this is because of the Oyer Elyon, a superior Oyer, that encompasses both the Rotzu and the Shuv. And the reason that this superior Oyer encompasses us because this Oyer is really above this process altogether. And therefore they become inter-included. And this is brought down through Torah, as we discussed also yesterday. And as it brought down, that Torah brings Sholem, Nasa Sholem Apamana Shomato, brings Sholem. So therefore we have already, so to speak, a foothold, a key. What is the union of Torah, the unique union of Torah that brings Sholem? And from this, we'll be able to understand the principle that we have now introduced. Biro Inyan, I said we are on the line that begins Sholem. Biro Inyan, to explain this scene in this Oyer Elyon and how it is Nimshach and so forth. It is necessary to first understand and be mavayir the Inyan of Sholem. What is the principle of Sholem? Now again, to get into this discussion, we have to delve into the question a little bit deeper. What's not Inyan HaSholem? Inyan HaSholem is a pshat that I said last night. Two neighbors don't overstep their rights, so they live side by side in peace. However, when they live side by side in peace, there is not peace between them. There's just no war between them. It's a completely different concept. Peace is a real presence. There is no peace. There's nothing that unites them. It is simply that they each turn their own way and stay within their own boundaries. That is not the Iyar HaSholem. Sholem has a real presence. The Hinek Sib. So to understand the Iyar HaSholem, it says in the Pasuk, Oyser Sholem Bimroimov. The Hashem makes Sholem Bimroimov in his higher realms. Omer Azal, and there the Chazal say, Michoel Sar Shamayim, Gabriel Sar Shaleish. That's Chazal say on this pasuk is a Sholem Bimroimov. That Michoel, who is the master of the minister of war, of Chesed. Gabriel Sar Shaleish, the minister of fire and Gvura. And they do not extinguish one another. Now, describing the Iyar HaSholem as we've described at the physical and the worldly level, clearly does not apply to Michoel and Gabriel. Michoel and Gabriel do not have territories. That each one occupies his territory. Michoel is everywhere, and so is Gabriel. How is it that then Eino Mechabin says that? And that is the pshat. Oise Sholem Imleimov. He affects the Sholem. Ulechoyle in a mover. But it would be different. In Lechoyle, superficially, it would seem to be questionable. Eich Nase. And then there's the word Sholem missing. Eich Nase Sholem ben Shnei Hafochim. The Mayim ve'esh. How does Sholem affected between two opposites of water and fire? However, the principle is the Hine Yesh Beis Sibo is Binya is Kalos. Going down to a more fundamental level. There are two causes, principal causes and reasons that affects the Hiskalus. Hiskalus. Hiskalus means interrelationship, inter-inclusion. Aleph, one siba for Hiskalus is Alidei Shekol Koyach Kolu Mekeh HaHafoch. It is as a result and through the fact that every koyach, kolu, actually incorporates and is also composed mikoyach hahafochi, from elements of its opposite koyach. And as a result of this inclusion, the fact that he also has an element of koyach hafochi, mischaber im hakoyach hahafochi. This is how he can join and relate to the koyach hahafochi with the opposite koyach. What does it mean that every koyach is kol mikoyach hahafochi? What this actually means is going to be discussed. Kol mikoyach hahafochi means that the composing elements of the koyach include elements of the koyach hahafochi. In other words, no koyach is purely that particular koyach whereby it will not be possible for it to relate and to recognize the opposite koyach. It has to have elements of koyach ha'afoch. What is the pshat in this? This principle that we say that every koyach is actually composed also of the koyach ha'afochi, who that is kasher mischaleg ha'koyach leriboy ha'protim sheboy. It is when this koyach is divided and broken up to to identify all the protim, all the details that it incorporates, all its components, so to speak. Then there is the inyan of koyach ha'afoch. The hine. What is this talking about? Kol koyach kolu mikol hakoyches. Every koyach kolu is actually incorporating and is composed mikol hakoyches, of all the koyches. Gam k'mei shehu poshut. Even as the koyach is in the level of being poshut, even then it is called mikol hakoyches. A few more words and then we'll stop for a moment. Or yesh boy mikol hakoyches behelem, or it actually contains of all the koyches behelem in a subtle way. What does this mean? Gam k'mei shehu poshut. We come across this term pshitus or atzmus, pshitus hakoyches, oyer poshut. The principle behind the term poshut is that the koyches and everything that exists does not exist merely because of some circumstantial requirement. Therefore, if it is because of circumstantial requirement, then there is no state of pshitus. It exists only when it is functional. It doesn't exist unless before it functions, before its function is identified and is called for. I would say that it's poshut means that there is a state where it is pshitus, meaning it is there before its function is called for. There's a reality in every koyach. Just to give us a little of a handle, it's very, very significant in particularly in our world. We speak about this all the time. What is sight? Sight simply means that I can see at a distance, I can see across the street. And how can I see across the street? Because there is light, and I have eyes, and therefore I can see. Now, we've discussed this many times. There is the camera's vision, there's the dog's vision, the animal's vision, and there is the human being's vision. everybody can readily recognize that these are very different experience, very principles of vision, of sighting. The camera sees, it's what's called a Shem HaMushal. It's an allegorical term. The camera does not see. Because when we say seeing, means that there's the experience of seeing. Seeing is a very profound experience. The camera doesn't see. The animal does see, and then lahavdil, the human being sees. And here is where we need to focus in and understand and try to identify the difference. We always point out, the animal sees, yes, it does see, which means it's a so to speak a personal experience for the animal to see. But that experience by the animal is a reactive experience. In other words, it sees this thing and it immediately reacts to this vision. How does that affect me? What does it mean? Am I supposed to run away? Am I supposed to attack it? Or am I supposed to be with it? So there is a personal reaction to the sight. But it's not sight in the pure sense of the word. It is sight based on the reactive. So therefore, it is a true koyach of vision. But there isn't the union of pshitus in this vision. What does it mean of pshitus? The effect of this sight, the presence of this sight, is at the time when it occurs, because of its effect, because of its significance at a practical level. I see. Why do I react to this sight? Because it means something to me. I have to react to it. I have to respond to it. That's what this vision is.
So this is not pshitus because the sight and the reaction.
Wait, I didn't explain pshitus. It is not pshitus. I mentioned pshitus. It is not. Pshitus means it exists before it functions.
Okay, and here they go together.
They exist as a result of function. Nothing exists before function. And as we always say, that the animal's vision, sighting, is no different than touching. It touches by sight. You can touch by touch. You can touch by sight. Just as touch. What is the experience of touch is, I feel it, how it affects my hand. That's what touch is. It's not that prior to touch I know what it's going to feel like. It feels like when I touch it. By the animal, sight is at the same level. Even though it is without being touched, it is at distance, but that is how he sees it. He sees through projection, to reacting to it as if he were touched.
Why does that mean that it exists at that time, exactly at that time? I don't follow exactly how it's synonymous. I mean, the whole sight is to basically give him a personal
The sight is if you said camera does not see, an animal sees. What's the difference? What do you mean the camera doesn't see?
There's no consciousness. There's no experience.
There's no reaction. That's right. There's no meaning to it this sight. But an animal, there is a meaning. So an animal really does see.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean the animal sees? It sees that there is a danger spot. It sees by virtue of its own interest, of its own reaction, as if he was hit by it. So at the time when he sees, just like touch occurs when you touch it, sight, which we are at the distance of the object, you don't get touched by it, but it's the same type of experience by the animal.
In other words, experience is only provided by the functional element in the reality that it sees.
Yeah, the sighting is a functional element by the animal. There is not a state of pshitus hakoyach. Pshitus means the pure truth of that thing. There isn't. The animal doesn't have pshitus. It doesn't have seichel. Doesn't have pshitus. Mm-hmm. It has a reactive state. Then how do we come to the human being? The human being, sight is like a confirmation of a truth that he knows before he even sees it. A human being sees this, and they always speak the subtleties, the spiritual element, not the tangible element, the visible element. What is this about? The human element. How does he see the human element? Because he possesses the pshitus of this koyach. Because he has seichel. Seichel is the pshitus of sight. Seichel means that I already know that there is such thing as a true presence. When I see, that confirms it, or that gives me that connects me to the true presence. If not for seichel, then we would have, our sight would be identical to that of the enemy. Like we point out all the time. You come to a chasana, what do you see? You see a simcha. Because you know what a simcha is, that there is a pshitus element in this. An animal does not see anything but the tangible.
Mm-hmm. So, is this to say that this koyach, this faculty of sight, does seem to be very pure and not include other koyachas?
No, you're jumping the gun. All I'm explaining is what's meant to koyach poshut.
I'm trying to think how we got into this, because you said
The Rebbe said
two ways of inter-inclusion. One is...
Come on. So he says that all the koyachas, gam kshehu koyach poshut. What's mean koyach poshut?
This is true about all the koyachas?
Huh?
This is true about... Sight's a very
right.
clear example, but...
That's right. Koyach HaNefesh is... This is true by all the koyachas. It's true by all the koyachas. People first introducing to this. I know how we know that we have to go step by step. We know, for example, that koyachas complement one another. A person who has a weakness in sight, his koyach hashmiya is increased. At what level do these koyachas communicate? At a level of pshitas. Not on a functional level.
So just to give clearly based on that example.
Not yet.
Okay.
The Taicha Gam K'moi Shehu Pashut is saying there is this koyach kalu.
That's right.
Kol koyachas.
Kol koyach kol of Mikola koyachas. Gam k'meshu posh.
This Gam K'moi is even while it is sample.
Even while at that stage when it's poshut, it is kol of Mikola koyachas. So before we go and explain Gam kshu kol and Gam, first we have to understand what's meant poshut. Poshut means the pshitas of the koyach, which means there is no. It's not defined by its functionality, by its effect. just the plain, the essential truth of that koyach. Now, so we took example of sight. Sight is a good example because every koyach it would be a good example, but there it is more difficult to strip it from all the functionalities. Inside, on the human level, it is more it easier, lends itself to that. Because sight is a very unusual experience, where you see something and and it is as clear as it could be, more clear than touch, without ever coming in contact with it. Clearly, there's a pshitus to it. It's not a functional thing. You're not relating to the ha'ora of the subject, because if you relate to the ha'ora of the object, you have to come in contact and see what it's about, and what is the effect of its presence. You're relating to the truth of the subject. That's what sight is. Otherwise, how can you know it's there without experiencing it?
Is pshitus here synonymous with uniqueness?
No. Pshitus means within itself, not by its effect, by its functional effect. That's why pshitus. No definition, undefined, and yet it's there.
So, does it point to its exclusiveness?
Avraham,
I'm sorry, I just trying to get it.
okay, so you'll get it as we go on, okay?
Sure.
First you have to know what you want to get.
Okay.
Let me explain that in sight you see the object without the need of touching it. On the contrary, you see a much truer element in the object than what you would experience by touch. Touch is a relative effect, how it affects you. Touch is, okay, let me leave it at that for a moment. But sight, you see the object in its true abode. Not how it affects, your hand touches it, but how it is present within its own environment. It's part of the entire reality. That's what sight is. This means, so you see the object at its pshitus state.
Another notch, you see it at its...
What?
You see it at its...
You see it at its pshitus state. You see it not by virtue of what it will do for you or something like that. That's its presence.
As it is.
As it is. It's your own reality. This thermos here stands there. When you see the thermos here, can you see it only if you are thirsty? The dog will see it only if it is thirsty.
And the camera won't see it.
A camera does not have any reaction at all.
Captures it.
An image doesn't know what it sees at all. But you see the thermos. It's a thermos that provides water. But I'm not thirsty. How come it's there? It's not there. You know what I'm saying? You see the reality itself, huh?
What's the answer? Why is it there?
Because there is a reality to this. There's a simple human reality. Doesn't have to be for me. Doesn't have to be for any of the people present.
What is that reality?
Huh?
So what is that reality?
That reality
How
is
do you-
that there is such thing as something providing water.
Does Pshitas have any? I mean, often I think of Pshitas as it doesn't have details to it. It's not something which is separated into.
Detail
Is
on
that
this would
related
be
to?
who wants to drink. I'm talking about nobody wants to drink, so what is it doing every day? It belongs to it. I'm trying to bring it down to the simplest level. But sight, again, is an extremely subtle, very fine color. All right, we'll have to interrupt now. To be reconvened again in Mitzvah Sunday. Thank you very much, Akiva. Want to make any announcements?
Yeah, I want to. We have. What time are we going to learn tonight?
Well, I know when Liebenstein is, we learn approximately an hour before Liebenstein.
Which would? Anybody know when lift is?
Well, no. Also, just a reminder, if you made a pledge, if you could tie it up.
And Daniel Yaluz is the co-sponsor, and Naftali Mikhailovsky is the divinely inspired procurer.
Yeah.